There's a sentence written in 1949, which runs inside every single AI algorithm on Earth right now. The man who wrote it was almost unpublishable. His work was weaponized by and right now, most scientists still don't know his name. This is NEUROCYBER Underground, where we ditch the textbooks they made you memorize and dig into the shit they left out. I'm Shamal, and I'm a computational neuroscientist. Today, we go inside your brain. Let's go! This is not a metaphor or a philosophy lecture. I'm talking about the actual physical wiring of your brain. This architecture that produces every thought you ever had, every memory you carry, even the dreams you don't even remember in the morning. It was described perfectly by this one man in one book almost 75 years ago, and no one believed him. The entire scientific establishment had reached a consensus at the time. The brain was a black box. Don't look inside it. Don't even theorize what is happening in there. Just measure what goes in, which is the stimulus, and what comes out, which is the behavior. This was the law at the time, and it had a name: behaviorism. And guess what? Donald Hebb broke it. He knew exactly what he was doing. Theorizing at this stage is like skating on thin ice. Keep moving or drown. He wasn't being poetic. This was his own warning label. He opened his book by calling the dominant scientific method of his era, that is, behaviorism, and I'm quoting directly here, a misconception of the scientific method as it operates in the earlier stages. That is not a man who expects a warm reception. But what was Hebb really saying? My honest answer, as a neuroscientist, I can tell you that we still don't know how a 1.5 kilogram piece of meat can generate thoughts. Hence the term black box, and it still applies here. The brain is a complete mystery and we're right inside it. But Hebb believed that there could be a way to connect the thought, that is the subjective interior experience, to a physical, measurable mechanism in the brain, and he actually found one. Neurons that fire together, wire together. 5 words. This is the Hebb's rule. It's his first and most revolutionary postulate. He actually said it in a more complicated way, but we're gonna use the shorter version for now. So when neuron A repeatedly activates neuron B, the synaptic connection between them physically strengthens. The brain rewires itself through experience, which means learning is not abstract, but it is a structural change we can measure. In 1949, this was a dangerous speculation. Unverifiable, unprovable, possibly career-ending. The biological proof didn't come until 1973, when Tim Bliss and Terry Lormo discovered something called long-term potentiation, a direct experimental confirmation that synapses strengthen exactly as Hebb predicted. The computational implications were not fully exploited until the 2010s deep learning revolution. 24 years for biology and 60 years for engineering. One scientist, one sentence. It took humanity 80 years to catch up. So you just heard it. Neurons that fire together, wire together. So synapse is not a relay, but it's a record. Every time you practice something, remember something, fear something, your brain physically changes. The wiring shifts. And that is memory. That is learning. These lessons are not stored somewhere abstract, but they're literally stored between the connections of your neurons. Hebb's second postulate states that things like objects, people, or concepts are encoded in our brain through the synchronization of multiple neurons. He called this cell assemblies, essentially distributed networks that synchronize through repeated or intense experience. There's no single neuron for your mother's face, no single location for the memory of your first loss. These things exist as patterns, spread across populations of neurons activated together. The modern neuroscience confirms this completely, and here is where it gets kinda uncomfortable. The same architectural logic, that is, distributed pattern encoding through interconnected neurons or nodes, is the foundation of transformer attention mechanism, the system that powers ChatGPT. In fact, GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. Hebb speculated this in 1949. This one got ignored by everyone, and it's maybe the most important idea in the entire book of the organization of behavior. Hebb proposed that sequential activation of multiple networks of neurons constitutes the stream of thought itself. He called this the phase sequence. Perception, reasoning, imagination, and consciousness. Not locations in the brain, not switches, but patterns moving across time, encoded through synchronizations. A 2014 paper tested this directly. They took mice and put put electrodes in their brains. Then the mice were put into boxes where they were either sleeping, dreaming, or awake. The researchers extracted or estimated face sequences based on their neuron patterns. And guess what? They were able to predict whether the mice were asleep, dreaming, or awake, only based on their brain. Tell me that is not mind reading. According to Hebb, consciousness is a temporal pattern of neural activations. It can be measured, it can be modeled, and it can be predicted. Hebb didn't just inspire the modern AI, he also inspired something else entirely. MK Ultra, Subproject 68. During the Cold War was obsessed with one question. Can you break the human mind? Can you erase it? And can you rewrite it? Hebb had published research on sensory deprivation. It was legitimate academic work. His work was later cited directly in the Kubar Counterintelligence Interrogation Manual in 1963, which stated that psychological results that produced only after weeks or months of imprisonment in an ordinary cell can be duplicated in hours or days. Hebb did not endorse this. He was not Cameron, but Cameron cited it. Dr. Donald Cameron, psychiatrist, McGill's Allen Memorial Institute. Electroconvulsive shocks to erase existing memory and behavior patterns. He called it de-patterning, a tape recording of negative and positive messages played up to 500,000 times into a subject's ears, including during drug-induced sleep. He called it psychic driving. LSD, high doses, without consent. The man who wanted to understand the brain became, involuntarily, the man whose work was used to destroy it. So here is what actually happened to Hebb's ideas after publication. They didn't die, they went underground. And then they came back in 3 different fields at 3 separate moments, like a slow-burning fuse. Randa Milner's landmark work on patient HM began providing the clinical scaffolding Hebb's theory needed. 1973, Bliss and Lormo discover long-term potentiation, the direct biological proof Hebb predicted 24 years earlier. 1982, John Hopfield formalizes Hebbian weights into his neural network model. Engineers finally start paying attention, no pun intended. 2000s and onward. The book, long out of print, is reprinted. Citation counts explode. It becomes a foundational text in 3 fields simultaneously: neuroscience, psychology, and computer science. So Donald Hebb never got a Nobel Prize. In 1961, he received the APA Distinguished Scientific Contribution Award, which is fine, but it's not a Nobel Prize. And the full weight of what he had done wasn't culturally legible until the AI era, which made it impossible to ignore. He was blocked from publishing by his own mentor. He was attacked by the scientific establishment for speculation. He lived just long enough until 1985 to see the neural networks become a serious engineering project, but not long enough to see them take over the world. I'm finishing up my master's thesis right now, which was inspired by Hebb's 3rd postulate, the one everyone ignored. Just like Hebb, I believe that consciousness is a detectable and measurable temporal pattern of neural activations, and currently I'm trying to use it to detect mental states following trauma. Hebb spent his entire career asking whether thought could be measured, whether the brain could be decoded, and I'm asking the exact same question. He kept moving so he wouldn't drown, and so am I.